Picture a quiet retiree, trusted by all, running a healthcare empire from a sleepy Arizona county. Now imagine that same man orchestrating a $1 billion Medicare fraud scheme, preying on seniors to fund a lifestyle of luxury. This is the story of Gary Cox, the 79-year-old CEO who turned trust into a weapon. How did he pull off one of America's biggest healthcare heists? This is Mind Your Profit, and today we're exposing a scam that shook the nation. So let's get right into it. Gary Cox was a respected figure inside Maricopa County, Arizona, a place known for its retiree communities and desert charm. Born in 1946, Cox was a seasoned businessman by the 1990s, with a knack for technology and healthcare. In the early 2000s, he became the CEO of Power Mobility Doctor LLC, Demarax, a company promising to streamline medical equipment orders through an internet-based platform. To the outside world, Cox was a visionary, connected pharmacies, suppliers, and telemedicine companies to get seniors braces and pain creams they needed. He was a guy who made healthcare accessible, or so it seemed. But Cox had bigger ambitions. The healthcare industry, especially Medicare, was a goldmine. Durable medical equipment, DME, like orthotic braces and prescription creams, could be billed to Medicare at high rates, and Cox saw an opportunity. By 2010, Demarax was a powerhouse, processing thousands of orders nationwide. Cox was a master networker, linking suppliers with doctors and telemarketers, all while presenting himself as a retiree with a modest lifestyle. He drove a practical car, lived inside a quiet suburb, and kept his personal life low-key. To colleagues, he was a workaholic who cared about helping seniors. Behind the scenes, Cox's world was anything but modest. His platform wasn't just processing orders, it was a machine for profit. He wasn't just content with legitimate earnings, he wanted millions. By the late 2000s, Cox and his team at Demarax were building a network that would exploit Medicare's trust inside doctors' orders. The question wasn't just how he did it, but why? What drove a 79-year-old to risk everything for a fortune he might never live to spend? But here's the real kicker. Cox wasn't a flashy billionaire. He didn't flaunt private jets or mansions. His wealth was hidden inside the shadows of a complex scheme, funneled through a digital platform that looked legitimate but was built on lies. That platform, Demarax, was about to make him infamous. Now let's unravel how Gary Cox and his team at Demarax stole over $1 billion from Medicare. The scheme was audacious but simple, exploiting the trust in America's healthcare system. Cox's company, Demarax, was an online platform that generated doctor's orders for medical equipment like orthotic braces and pain creams. On the surface, it looked like it was a legitimate service, connecting patients, doctors, and suppliers. In reality, it was a front for fraud, and here's how it worked. Cox and his co-conspirators, Brett Blackman and Gregory Schreck, both from Kansas, targeted hundreds of thousands of Medicare beneficiaries, mostly seniors. They used misleading mailers, TV ads, and offshore call center to trick people into sharing their personal information. Seniors were told they qualified for free braces or creams, often with no doctor visit required. These pitches were relentless: spam calls, glossy brochures, and ads promising relief from pain. Many seniors, trusting the official-looking materials, gave up the Medicare details. Once they had the data, Cox's team went to work. Demarax generated fake doctor's orders, claiming a physician had evaluated each patient. In truth, these evaluations were a sham. Telemedicine companies paid by Cox bribed doctors to sign orders without seeing patients, sometimes after a brief phone call, often with no contact at all. These fraudulent orders were fed into Demarax, which then sent that to pharmacies and DME suppliers. Those suppliers then billed Medicare for over $1 billion, pocketing more than $360 million inside payouts for equipment and creams that were medically unnecessary or never delivered. Cox and his crew earned millions by coordinating these illegal kickbacks, acting as a middleman inside a massive fraud network. The scale, it was staggering. From the early 2000s to 2023, Cox's operation processed thousands of fake orders, exploiting Medicare's lax oversight. To hide the scheme, they used sham contracts and scrubbed dangerous words from orders, terms like telemedicine that might trigger audits. If Medicare questioned a claim, Cox's team had fake paperwork ready to go, making it look like legitimate medical care. The victims, seniors who got useless braces, taxpayers who funded the payouts, and a healthcare system strained by fraud. While Medicare struggled to cover legitimate claims, Cox's scheme drained resources, driving up costs for everyone. In Maricopa County, Cox kept a low profile, but his banking account told a different story. Millions inside kickback payments, funneled through Demarax and his sister company, Health Splash Inc. He wasn't just living like a king, but the money gave him power, influence, and a safety net that most retirees only dreamed of. Now, what made it work for so long? Medicare's trust inside doctor's orders was a weak spot. The system didn't verify patients' interactions, and Cox knew it. His platform automated the fraud, scaling it to industrial levels. Plus, he had help from co-conspirators like Shrek, who pleaded guilty in February 2025, and Blackman, whose trial was severed after a mistrial. The operation ran smoothly because no one looked closely. Who'd suspect a 79-year-old CEO masterminding a billion-dollar scam? But Cox's confidence was his Achilles heel. By 2023, the feds were closing in, and one misstep would bring his entire empire coming down. In July 2023, Gary Cox's world unraveled. The FBI, Department of Health and Human Services, and other agencies launched Operation Brace Yourself, a nationwide crackdown on healthcare fraud. Cox, along with Brett Blackman and Gregory Shrek, was indicted for conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, wire fraud, and kickbacks. The feds have been tracking Demarax's suspicious claims for months, tipped off by patients for overbilling and complaints about unsolicited braces. The evidence that they had against him was deep. The court documents showed Demarax generated thousands of fake orders, backed by sham contracts and doctored paperwork. Investigators traced over $1 billion inside fraudulent claims, with $360 million paid out. On June 3, 2025, a federal jury in Miami convicted Cox on 6 counts: conspiracy to commit healthcare and wire fraud, 3 counts of healthcare fraud, conspiracy to pay and receive kickbacks, and conspiracy to defraud the U.S. with false statements. He faces up to 60 years inside prison, with sentencing pending. The fallout was massive. Medicare tightened its oversight, and seniors were left distrusting the system. Cox's co-conspirator Shrek pleaded guilty, admitting his role inside the scam, and Blackman's case is still ongoing. The DOJ called it one of the largest healthcare frauds inside history, a betrayal that hit vulnerable seniors the hardest. Cox, once a respected CEO, now faces life behind bars at 79. His assets, likely millions, are under scrutiny, but recovery for taxpayers remain uncertain. Gary Cox's Medicare fraud wasn't just a crime, it was a betrayal of trust, driven by deep flaws inside his character. Let's break down the 5 cracks that led to his downfall and what they teach us about integrity, ambition, and accountability. Flaw number 1. Greed over gratitude. Cox had a successful career, a respected role, and financial stability at age 79. But greed turned his ambition toxic. He didn't just want profit, he wanted millions, no matter the cost. The Bible warns inside Luke 12:15. Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Cox's pursuit of wealth hurt seniors and taxpayers, proving that greed doesn't just harm the greedy, it ripples out, causing real pain. Flaw number 2. Exploiting the vulnerable. Cox targeted seniors, knowing they were trusting and often desperate for medical relief. His scheme preyed on their vulnerabilities, using deceptive ads and calls to steal their data. This exploitation wasn't just illegal, it was morally bankrupt. Proverbs 22:16 says, "One who oppresses the poor to increase his wealth will come to poverty." Cox's wealth came at the expense of those he should have protected, a choice that cost him his own freedom. Flaw number 3. A web of deception. The Demarax platform was built on lies, fake orders, bribed doctors, and sham contracts. Cox's deception fooled Medicare, suppliers, and even his own team. But lies erode trust and breed paranoia. Psalms 34:13 says, "Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from telling lies." Cox's double life, humble CEO by day, fraud mastermind by night, kept him on edge, always hiding. Deception might buy time, but it will always collapse. Flaw number 4. Arrogance and power. As CEO, Cox had unchecked control over Demarax. He believed he was too smart to get caught, automating fraud to a billion-dollar scale. The arrogance blinded him to risks. Proverbs 16:18 warns, "Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall." Cox's confidence inside his scheme's complexity was his undoing. Medicare's audits and the FBI's persistence proved he wasn't untouchable. And flaw number 5. Ignoring the consequences. Cox ran his scheme for years, likely thinking he'd retire before the hammer fell. But Galatians 6:7 is clear. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked, and man reaps what he sows. His misstep, overbilling patterns triggered scrutiny, brought the feds directly to his door. We all have those moments where we think we won't get caught. But Cox's fall shows us something. Consequences will always catch up. Cox had the chance to build a legacy of integrity. Instead, he chose greed, exploitation, and lies, leaving a trail of distrust. His story is a warning. Unchecked flaws can destroy you and those around you. At Mind Your Profit, we share stories like Cox's to help you avoid the same traps. Don't let greed derail your future. Gary Cox turned a trusted healthcare platform into a $1 billion scam, exploiting seniors and taxpayers for profit. His greed and deception cost him everything: freedom, reputation, and legacy. So what's one thing that you could take away from this entire story? Drop your answer inside the comments below, and until next time, keep your eyes on your money and your mind on your profit, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.